Hello, friends. Jay Todd here from the floor of the Global Gaming Expo, where I've caught up with Eamon Tolan, the president of Paddy Power North America. You said something about annexing Canada and Mexico.
As well, exactly. Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate you coming on. You know, Paddy Power has been a force in online gaming and sports betting in particular for a while. What fascinated me is that you were speaking at a session recently on fantasy sports and social gaming type of sports games. You know, a lot of people in North America maybe can't have access to real money gaming, but perhaps you could elaborate a little bit on Paddy Power's involvement in social and fantasy and how it ties into real money sports betting.
Sure. Well, we have a social game called Bet Dash, which is tremendously exciting for us and has been going very well for us in the UK and Ireland. We're also very excited by how fantasy sports has grown in the United States. I mean, 5 years ago, maybe 15 million people were playing. Now it's 33 million people across 41 states. So it's a huge market, and there's no doubt that a lot of those guys are natural sports bettors, given that the estimate for the market for real money sports betting is something like $300 billion. Clearly, there's some fantasy sports fans who are also real money sports fans as well.
Right. I'm a fantasy football player. I love it. I got Peyton Manning on one of my leagues, so I'm doing well. But how do you go about, I mean, if somebody's on there playing, obviously, they're hopefully at a point in the future, maybe perhaps fantasy sports could be a form of sports betting.
Sure, no doubt, and I think you're seeing already it's going from season-long fantasy sports to daily fantasy sports, and maybe in the future we'll be seeing almost minute-by-minute fantasy sports games. And at that point, the difference between, say, a kind of parlay bet on the NFL, which in play in some sort, and a fantasy sports game, there's not so much of a difference.
Right, I was going to bring that up. It sounded a lot like in-play betting, which is huge, I understand, in the United Kingdom. Over here, of course, sports betting is more taboo. But, with the things going on in New Jersey, hopefully we're moving that way. New Jersey's a whole different can of worms. Looking down the road, if you had a crystal ball, I'm sure you would love to see a time when sports betting was legal in the United States as a whole. As it is, we're going by state for online gambling in general. You ever see a time where maybe we could play fantasy sports for money online in the U.S.?
Sure, I think there's no doubt that both fantasy sports and real money sports will be being played online in the States. I think people will be playing on their cell phones, on their smartphones, watching the Super Bowl and betting on all sorts of events at the same time. I think it'll be hugely exciting. And for the sports leagues, I think it'll be a huge opportunity, both from a revenue point of view, but also to minimize the risks of corruption. I mean, there's a massive market out there at the moment which is unregulated and unlicensed, maybe 300 billion in turnover, 20 billion in profit, and it's going offshore. So I think it's an opportunity for everyone to benefit by regulating.
I agree with you, sir. And I think if we can get the sports leagues to see the profit potential in this and trust in the regulatory bodies behind it, then perhaps someday it will take place. Thank you so much for coming on, sir. I appreciate it. It's nice to meet you.
Thanks, Jay Todd. Pleasure to meet you too.